Welcome back to the Fever, everyone, for a look at this next week's games. With all the playoffs set in District 2-5A, George, again, Monterey having pretty much just a rivalry game with Coronado as they take on each other this next week.
Yeah, and it's another revenge game for Monterey. You know, they've lost this game the last 2 years against Coronado, you know, and has really kind of struggled in doing so. So it's a big game for Monterey to kind of get back on track. I know. Talking to some of the kids, they were talking about, we can still win the city championship. You know, we beat Levelland, we beat Monterey, or we beat Coronado these next 2 weeks. But and credit Coronado or Monterey for what they did. 500 rushing yards. They pretty much lined up and mowed over Levelland this last week. They won't be able to do that this week because Coronado's offense is so much better and so much more advanced and runs so much better than Levelland runs their offense. So Monterey is going to have to get into kind of a scoring fest with Monterey or with Coronado to win this game. I just don't know if Monterey's offense will have enough with the way it runs the ball and Coronado plays defense to be able to do that. I look for Coronado to make it 3 straight this year. I think Coronado's going to win this game, and Coronado's going to be the city champions this year.
All right, that game, one of 2 games, of course, here on Friday Night Football on LISD TV. The other one being Borger and Estacado. Estacado trying to keep their playoff hopes alive. They need a couple of things to happen as well, but for the most part, and I don't think you'll have to get out your calculators for this one, everyone.
I hope not.
Estacado can just win this one and hopefully watch themselves get into the playoffs.
Yeah, it's actually, it might sound complicated for Estacado, but it's actually pretty simple. All they got to do is beat Borger, which they should. Borger is an 0-4 team in district. They've really struggled all year, and really haven't been close in very many other games. They did play Cooper close this last week, but Cooper, ran the ball really well and had some good offensive yards against them. So I think Estacado will probably take care of Borger this week. Now, what they've got to have happen is they need Dalhart to beat Perryton and knock Perryton out of the into a 2-3 record and make Estacado would be 3-2, and so they would get that 3rd and playoff spot. And that's just to avoid any kind of 3-way tiebreakers, which we'll spare you this week. We'll let it all play out this week, and we'll give you everything next week. But I think Estacado will take care of their part of the deal in the early game at Larry Field. I look for the Matadors to beat Borger this week.
Now, of course, number 7 Friendship, 1 game away from trying to finish out that district and season undefeated. They take on Lakeview, and talking with Coach Black, George, obviously he hit on the biggest thing, the defense just being outstanding for the Tigers this year.
Yeah, it has been. I don't know how much more I could say about this defense, or at least how impressed I am for the fact that you return or you lose all 11 starters, you have 11 new guys, and they're actually better than they were last year, in my opinion. So just a great job by Friendship's defense all year long. They're going up against a Lakeview team, which is a little bit more balanced than Cooper was last week. Cooper mainly a running team, but and Lakeview has the ability to run the ball, and they have a good quarterback in J.D. Baker who can throw the ball. They're just not as talented as Abilene Cooper. So with this kind of game, I think that bounces out for Friendship. I look for Friendship being at home. They're gonna win this one, and they're gonna go undefeated in the regular season for only the 2nd time in school history. Count on the Tigers to win against Lakeview this week at home.
All right, Cooper Pirates sitting atop that District 1-3A. They kind of control everything right now, taking on Levelland, and a team that's kind of surprised a couple of teams this year. But for the most part, 1-3 in district, they're kind of hurting right now. A big part of the Cooper team and what they're going to have to see. Tay Richardson obviously playing well at quarterback for them. Yeah,
Levelland has kind of been one of those those struggling teams. They had some good wins in non-district, and when we thought they might be there in this district race, but they've really struggled when district came around. Kind of been the opposite of Cooper. Cooper really struggled in non-district, and they've taken off when the district started. When a lot of us thought that this game right here was probably going to be, a lot of us thought, for that 3rd and final playoff spot. Well, Cooper's already got it sewn up. Levelland's pretty much out of the playoff picture. So so as far as playoff terms, there's not really that much to play for. But when you're Cooper and you're wanting to win that district championship and you're wanting to win it outright, and it's been a long road getting back to that one. This would be the first one since 2005. It's been a long time coming for Cooper. I know since they got that last taste, they're going to want to close this thing outright. I look for Cooper at home to win this one. Go with the Pirates over Levelland.
And Brian Pointer, of course, a big part of that Roosevelt team. And what they're trying to do to stay in that playoff hunt, they're taking on Denver City. And Roosevelt, one of 3 teams with a 3-3 record right now. 4 teams with a 3-3 record in District 3-2A, trying to make a playoff spot. What's going to happen for the Eagles or Abernathy to get into that playoffs?
Yeah. This is one where it's really jumbled. You've got Idlewild and Levelland have got the first 2 spots sewn up. Then you've got Abernathy, Shallowater, Post, and Roosevelt all sitting there 3-3, 4 teams vying for 1 spot. Roosevelt's path is pretty simple. All Roosevelt has to do is beat Denver City, a team that they should go on the road and beat. Although on the road, Denver City's going to be tough at home. It'll be tough for the Eagles to win that game, but I think they go out and win that one. But then what they have to have happen is for Post to lose. Post plays Littlefield. You know, Littlefield's going to want to close out, you know, strong and get into the playoffs, you know, on a roll. So I look for, you know, Roosevelt to go out and handle their business this week against Denver City. I think they'll go to Mustang Stadium and get the win, and hopefully, and we'll see how the rest of the playoffs, you know, play out. But look for the Eagles to win this week.
Abernathy and Charleroi, the other game, of course, in 3-2A, and that's a big one. Abernathy coming off tough loss to Idalou this past week. Charleroi are trying to prove that they could be a solid team this year without, you know, their starting quarterback in Morris, but let's see what happens in this one.
Yeah, Abernathy and Charleroi, these are two teams that you know, they really don't control their own destiny. You know, whoever wins out of this game obviously is going to have the upper hand on the other, but both these teams don't hold the tiebreaker against Roosevelt. Roosevelt has beaten both of these teams, so they really need Roosevelt to lose, and then the winner of this one, you know, depends on who wins, whether it's Charleroi or Abernathy, who holds the tiebreakers over Post and what Post does. So yeah, this is a game where both these teams really need some help, you know, to come out for this one, for them to make the playoffs. But in terms of the game, I think Abernathy's running game will probably be the most dominant part of this game. You know, with Peyton Rogers, I look for the Antelopes to go on the road and win this week at Charleroi.
All right, two teams still undefeated in District 5 1A play, Morton and Spring Lake Earth, and Coach Reeves trying to keep those Indians going and take that district title.
Yeah, I know he was really frustrated sometimes, and Coach Reeves is one of those that expresses his frustration in very loud terms. But you know, but I know he was frustrated during the non-district schedule. I mean, but this is a team that has really come around and played well during, you know, in the district season. You know, they lost their quarterback at the beginning of the year, but you know, they're playing really well right now. But you know, credit Spring Lake Earth. I think Spring Lake Earth is one of these teams that's really kind of flown under the radar most of the season. They're sitting there at 4-0 as well. A big game for both these teams. You know, the winners, the outright district championship or the district champion. Game being at Morton, I'm going to go with the Indians this week. Go with Coach Reeves. They'll get the win this week.
And of course, a big test in District 7 1A. Stanton taking on Sundown, and again the Roughnecks, you know, off to a rough start during that non-district period 1 and 2, but they've kept rolling. Can Chad Terry help the Roughnecks close out that district title?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're talking about a Sundown team that, you know, since the 2-game losing streak that we've talked about, you know, they've just been playing some good, solid football. They kind of got back to their basics, you know, after that losing streak, you know, playing, you know, with a little blue-collar attitude, and it's really shown. I mean, they've come through district and pretty much mowed through everybody and kind of done what we expected them to do there at Sundown, and just a great place to play football. You know, what more appropriately named stadium than Slaughter Field for a football stadium? And I'm not saying it'll be a slaughter this week, but I think Sundown, with Stanton coming in, Stanton's undefeated, but I just don't think they're going to have the athletes and the ability to stay with Sundown. Go with the Roughnecks this week to close out 7-1A undefeated.
All right, so Georgia's picks for the last week of the regular season: Coronado over Monterey, Estacado over Borger, Friendship staying undefeated over San Angelo Lakeview, Cooper over Levelland, Roosevelt over Denver City, Abernathy over Shallowater, Morton Indians over Spring Lake Earth, and Sundown over Stanton. And that's all the time we have this week. Be sure to tune in right here to LISD TV for Friday Night Football. You can also catch the live scoreboard on Friday nights at LoneStarVarsity.com for all your news, highlights, scores, and more from around the area. You can email questions to George and I at sports@LubbockOnline.com. I'd like to thank Friendship Defensive Coordinator Don Black for stopping by. For George Watson, I'm Travis Cram. We'll see you next week for the playoffs right here on The Fever.